About 5 minutes. So Wendy, if you're prepared, if you're ready. Who was here last week and saw Wendy?
Woo!
Excellent, excellent. Yes, a treat. You
Sorry,
ready?
sorry, you aren't shy about getting a full introduction, or just Wendy? Do you even came on last night?
Yes. You happy with me to say it in front of all these people?
If you like.
You want the big one? The whole thing? No, I didn't mean that. A big introduction.
Proper introduction.
Fantastic. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's with great pleasure. Please, welcome to the stage, Wendy Ivers!
Right. As usual, we're really adjusted for the Wendy in this world. I'm actually going to sit down as well because I think that if I stand up, I'll be more nervous. So there we go. You all okay? You look very nervous. Are you worried that I'm going to offend you?
Nice to be here.
I'm going to get in trouble for something. So, I've never really told a joke in my life. I've always just come up and told stories or just spoke about what comes out of my mouth. So let's just see where this goes. I'm quite pissed off at pretty much everything and everybody right now. It would be safe to say that I'm genocidal. Which is better than being homicidal, because if you're homicidal I could just fucking kill you right now. If I'm genocidal I need staff. And they fucking joking either. Half a fucking Facebook would be the first to go. So what else has been happening in my life? I'm kind of like, I don't really know where to start or where to go from here. There's a good chance that like I'll start talking and the shit will just go downhill. And we'll get really fucking deep and then down a dark big rabbit hole and we'll never get back out of it, in which case we've got, he's been instructed to pull me off the stage with that. So that's all fine. So what's been happening? I had a child come in to visit me today. I live in a local community and I'm kind of like an informal aunt to the local kids. They just come in and out of the house and quite a lot. And a couple of years ago, it was getting to the point where I had like sometimes 20 kids in my house at a time, right? And I'd be saying to them, look, you need to give me some space, you need to do this, you need to, like, you can go away, like, you need to, like, it's getting too much. I wasn't able to work because I write from home, and now these kids were coming in. My house is like multicoloured, and it's quite entertaining for kids. It's got books and stuff like that. It's got a basement as well, so children come in and like hang around in the basement and stuff, which isn't really good for rumours. But it got to the point where I was like saying, because you need to give me a break, maybe only come once a week at agreed time so that I've got space and time to work. And the kids got really kind of offended by this. Because they felt like I was rejecting them. So one of these kids decided, like, as a way of kind of, what would you call, like, getting back at me for the rejection, decided to make up a rumour. And the rumour that she made up was that I had showed some teenage boys my tits. Right? Which is clearly not true, because if I had showed any teenage boys my tits, there would still be a queue at my door. Right? Because they're quite a nice set of tits, which is why I cover them up, right? Because they're like, if they weren't covered, I would just be touching them all the time. I said, we're going okay, that's fine. The tension is gone. Like, there was a real tension in the room when I sat there initially. So, carrying on with that story, obviously, eventually I got to the root of the rumour, established which child had said this rumour, and I spoke to her mother, and the kid came back, and it was hysterical and apologised and all the rest of it, and that was fine. But then the rumour continued to spread that I had been showing my tits to kids, right? And showing my bitties to kids. So at one point it got to like a local youth leader or a local child's club leader, and again I was like, the kids were still coming in and out of my house, and they were just being kids, right? If you're like imagine kids in a youth facility where they've got no respect for the youth worker, right? So the kids were running riot basically in and around my house and all the rest of it. And this lassie came to the door once, right? And she was, what did she say? She's like, she knocks at the door. I was in the basement with some children. Right? It was like, because it's like a 6 feet deep basement, and the kids kept coming and going, so we thought we'll make the space okay for kids, so we put a library down there and I floored it and I did other stuff so that the kids could get into the basement and I could just carry on with doing stuff and they had this huge space in my house. And this woman came to the door and she was like, what are you doing with all that kids in your house? I heard you're showing your kids your bitties, right? And I was like, well, come in and you can see Fandy and I don't want to watch you showing kids your bitties. And I'm like, I'm not showing them kids my bitties. They've got a fucking library, you've shut all the community facilities, you've shut everything. So I've let the fucking kids into my house and I'm like an informal fucking teacher, right? That's it, I'm got the fucking police. I was like, what the fucking police? There's no crime, there's no accusation, there's no fuck all, nobody's done anything. I haven't actually showed my kids my tits, right? It's like, so that was fine. So she went, I was like, the police are going to tell you to fuck off because you're going to need an actual complaint, right? No, right? Because if you're a fucking mink for Satan, you've got no fucking rights. Okay? So within 30 seconds, I had the pigs at my fucking door saying to me, right, we've heard a rumour that you've got children in your basement. I'm going, yes, there's children in my basement. Go and fucking have a look, right? So they went down and they're doing a hole, right? And there's all these kids in the basement just being kids in a basement, right?
As they do.
Well, anyway, so that's fine. So the police were like to the kids, get out of the house, right? So the kids all went a walk, and then the police came in, and they're like, blah, blah, blah. You know, we heard this woman's told us that you've been showing your private parts to children. Yeah. And I'm like, if you got a complaint from a child, actually, that I've showed my actual bits to a child, and they're like, no. I'm like, well, you really need to go fucking get that, do you fucking cunt, right? Because it's like, I'm like, because you would, to prove that I'd showed my bits to a kid, you would need them to fucking draw my vag, right? And if you had seen my vag at that time, because when you're hanging about with heaps of kids, you're not getting, it's not like you're fucking random people, right? So like, you've got hundreds of kids coming in your house and you're just working and you're just thinking, the last thing you're thinking is your personal hygiene. So I had pubes that were at my knees, right? It's like, I'm like, would you like to see my fucking vag? Because if you saw my vag right now, you would claim that I'd never showed it to anybody in the fucking last 10 years, right? So the police are like, blah, 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 and then that's fine, and they go away. And then they phoned the parent of the child that made up the rumour, and that was fine. But then it got back to me about a week later that the rumour was still going on and that this woman who had come to my door had continued to spread the rumour that I'd showed my vag to children and had been telling people that I was arrested and taken to the fucking police station in my pyjamas, right, to be charged for being a pedo, right? So I phoned up the police guard. My vajazzle, my vajazzle. So I phoned up the police and I'm like, this lassie is spreading rumours that I'm a fucking pedo and I'm not a pedo and I don't molest kids. And they're like, well, there's nothing really we can do about people spreading rumours. I'm going, there's nothing you can do about people spreading rumours. I'll tell you fit. You don't go back to that lassie and tell her to shut her fucking mouth. I will go to her house and I will break her fucking legs. Right? And the police are like, what did they say to me? They said, oh, well, now you're making threats. I'm like, I'm not making a threat, I'm making a fucking promise. Right? If that lassie doesn't shut her fucking mouth, I'm going to break her legs. Right? And this is on the phone. So that was fine. So then the police came to my door the next day, more children in my house, in the basement again. Right? Because I'm not going to fucking stop being a community person because of a fucking stinking shitty rumour. Right? So that's fine. So the police come back and they're saying to me, oh, Wendy, look. You know, you really need to, we could get you arrested for your abuse of the police officer on the phone, and we really think that you've made some threats now to one of your neighbours. And I'm like, right, so if I can't proof a proof, you'll get me done for a hate crime, but a fucking neighbour calling me a pedo and spreading a rumour which could get me killed in my community. 2 people have been murdered in my community for being a pedos, right, in the last 20 years. Because they don't really like pedos in my community, right? Which is fair enough, because the kids are free. So if your kids are free, you don't want a pedo biting by it, right? It's a bad thing, right? So, and the police were like, well, you know, we could really get you arrested for your threatening people. I'm like, come on, let's get us in a fucking court and let's get us dealt in a fucking court, you fucking prick, right? And the police were like, such next week, we've got a punchline that joke, right? But anyway, I tell the pigs to fuck off. I was like, get fuck out my house, you little pig bastard, right? And they just left. kind of the end of that story. But is that my time? Is that my time? So I'm going to get off the stage now. There you go, that was easy.